Welcome to Peaceful Power Project, a podcast dedicated to physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health and well being. Today's episode is a recap of the Harpeth Hills Flying Monkey Marathon. You can follow my running for mental health journey beginning as far back. I'm actually not so sure, but I do know that I recapped my very first marathon. Um, Definitely my second, not sure about the third, and I did recap my first ultra experience. If you are listening to this on the podcast and would like to check it out on YouTube, you just go to Sarah Granato, so SarahGranato. If you are with me on YouTube, I'm going to adjust my recording thing a little bit because much better. I mean, the rays were very cool. I am next to a window, and it was pretty cool effect having the sun rays come in. Though it's like 25 degrees outside, we still have the sunshine. All is well in the world. And so I just moved the recording device a little bit closer so that effect would not be happening. But if you do want to see some of my gear and some of the swag from the race, definitely come on over to the YouTube channel for this episode. It has been a while since I have recorded. I have no excuse. I would call them reasons, but no reasons, no excuses. 7-ish months ago, I moved from Florida to Tennessee, and it has just not happened. And I am feeling especially grateful. Well, several things about the Harpeth Hills Flying Monkey Marathon, feeling grateful about, but one of them is that it's bringing me back to recording this podcast. So, Peaceful Power Project, I have guided mindfulness, guided meditations, guided walk with me episodes, as well as incredible interviews and some episodes that I record, hopefully, that are in service to you. So, here I am back. It has been 1 week and 1 day since the marathon. Again, I do wish I could have sat down a little bit sooner, so it was more fresh. But I, again, am surrounded by the things that were part of my journey. And my journey did begin with the move here to hilly and now chilly, not chilly when we moved back in April, but hilly and chilly Tennessee. I knew that I had to get something on the calendar. I call races events because I'm so slow. It's definitely a mental block that I have, along with like saying I'm a runner as opposed to like jogging. Or I do say like mother runner, running for mental health as little hashtags, but still it feels uneasy in my skin because I am slow, and that's just it's actually a fact. I guess not slow compared to like not doing it at all, but it's also something that I'll share at the end. It's actually a mental block that I have been processing since the Flying Monkey Marathon, something I've been going through in my head. And anyway, I knew I had to get an event on the calendar, a race on the calendar, because I was so homesick. I trying not to cry right now. If you're on YouTube, you might see some tears, but I I'm still homesick, and you can hold two things at once, right? You can hold homesickness and a longing and a missing and a remembering and sadness. And at the same time, you can hold inspiration and hope and motivation um, and light and improvement and progress. And that is what the Flying Monkey Marathon allowed me to do in one of my darkest periods as an adult, going through one of the biggest transitions I've ever gone through with my children, which makes everything more. I'll just say more. So I didn't get this marathon on the calendar to begin with. I actually found another event, and I was excited about it. It was on the calendar, and I met a woman. I'm not going to name names. I didn't get any permission, but basically, like the most incredible human ever, a runner, a mother, like a ultra, like a really cool ultra runner, woman. And we met in a Facebook trail running group in comments, moved to the DMs. I must have, I think I was just telling everyone I was homesick in the beginning. Now it doesn't feel like, I don't know, I have to get to a vulnerable space for that. But anyway, I was just telling everybody, and I think she felt bad for me, but she was like, or not, no, she's just an amazing person. I think she's just a generous, open-hearted, amazing person. And said, "Do you want to go get coffee tomorrow?" And again, like just craving connection. Yes, yes, of course. And so we met for coffee and I think she checked out my character with like a mutual friend who I also barely knew. But anyway, I passed and we met for coffee and she was sharing about her running community, her running goals. She had a super big race upcoming. And then the coolest event race in this area was this flying monkey. Flying monkey, it just sounded so cool. And unfortunately, I had already put money down on another event. They were pretty close. My coach, who I do trust, it's something I'll just speak to now. Athena Farias has been my coach for a few years now, and I have just learned to trust. So, for me, for my fitness level, for where I'm at in my running existence, which you can also listen to previous episodes, which share that I started running at like 40 and a half, October 2020. Um, and coming from one of those people, and I say this a lot, who wouldn't run unless I was being chased, and nothing's ever chased me, and made every excuse in the book to get out of any like PE type running request. And then I went to like art school and never had to run, which I can get into in another episode. The benefits of like running on my physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health and well-being surely would have benefited anything I was doing in my younger years. But I found it later, and that is my journey, and that was my path. So anyway, um, I knew based on my coach that I couldn't do both events. So I was contemplating. I mean, this monkey, the more I looked at the website, I'll say just I don't know the right word for it, but like this type of humor that like struck a chord in me, that the race director has in every like marketing material from the website to the Facebook group. I wanted to participate. So I was almost ready to like eat my other registration cost just to participate. And then fortunately, or unfortunately, actually, that event was canceled. So unfortunately for them, but I mean, right away, I got my registration feedback and I got into the lottery of Flying Monkey and obsessed obsessed over it. And then got in. It's a random lottery, not a lottery. Well, I guess that's what a lottery is. Oh boy. I've already like stopped and started this recording so many times. So perfectly imperfect, I continue. Yes, it's a random lottery, and I was able to participate from that. And from that point on, the training began, but like no other, a training like no other. In my previous three marathons and even my ultra, I actually didn't look at the data here, but there were no hills. So I don't know what the data was for the ultra, but in 26.2 miles of my previous marathons, the highest elevation over those miles was 75 feet, period. And this marathon boasts like over 3,000 feet of gain and loss. So all the things we're talking about, like negative self-talk in not like you can't do this, but almost in a like that lack of belief, lack of ability, and feeling like I didn't have enough fitness. And then I actually went out to the Percy Warner Parks and tr tried to run when I first moved here. And I was like, how is this marathon going to happen? And I would go back and forth with different people I was having like some direct message conversations with, and like, well, you could start with the half, but, and I'll share a bit of this at the very end as well, but just the half is not a distance. It's just not for me. If I'm going to go, I'm just going to like go. And that will change moving forward. But I knew in my heart I wasn't going to choose the half, and there's nothing wrong with it. It was just, I love this like the slow marathon. That's me, my pace. Um, I love, I don't know. I love whatever that space is at the end where it feels like impossibility and then you do the impossible. So you're like proving an impossible possible, which is a really magical moment. So I knew I was doing the marathon. And oh, those first training runs with the hills, that was really intense. I felt like I my legs were not mine. I felt like they each weighed my body weight, each leg. Um, I thought the uphill, this was great. So, oh, and for those of you who live in like mountains and stuff, and this elevation I speak of is like minimal, that's fine. But I'm speaking my personal perspective. So you can, like, if you're used to like breezy temperatures, think about like the 100 degrees, whatever your like challenge or maybe a never done before experience. So mine were these hills. And I yeah. So anyway, with the training, oh, I thought the uphills were going to be like the most challenging thing in the world. And mind you, they were the ankles, the calves, they were screaming at me, quadriceps, like, and and not even that. I just couldn't even simulate a running shape or form. It wasn't even like I was running slow. There were points of these uphills where I was just walking uphill. Um, and I thought that that would be the most challenging, but going down a hill, and I also trained on some of the trails, which is a little bit different than the course, which is a paved course, but in the Harpeth Hills, like in the hills of the Percy Warner Parks. So it's much different, again, than anything I've participated, which is basically along a street or road or sidewalk. Um, but those downhills for someone who is terrified of heights, like I'm afraid of heights. So when you're going at a decline and feel like gravity pulling you down, my like diaphragm would like hook up into my sternum. It felt like, and I also get the like when I was on some of the ridges, like my tailbone like moving up into my body, like my butt. I don't know how to describe it, but I felt like physical fear. And then I would slow down, right? Because I didn't want to fall on my face. So the downhills were proving slow as well, because I would start to tiptoe. Oh, and training out there was so fun because most people are not me. Well, most people, like, there's people that hike and walk their dogs. Okay. But then the runners out there on the trails and the hills, they're like deers, I don't know, gazelle, I don't, it's just some graceful animal like pouncing down these hills. It would just blow my mind. I would just, obviously, etiquette, step to the side. I'd hear a rustle, a footprint, something. I would just like step to the side and let them go, and just mind blowing. But like anything, um, I just, you just keep going out there. I didn't go out there one day, could barely walk uphill and then tiptoe downhill and go, well, that sucked. I'm not doing that. You do it again and again and again. And that's what I did. Now, I don't want to say unfortunately, but I did not get out there later in my training as much as I would have liked. I did not have very many long runs on the course. Fortunately for me, I live around 17 minutes from the course, which is great. So why I say it's not unfortunate, we started to have soccer in the morning and attend a church on the next morning. And so I really couldn't get out there for my long runs. Um, and that is now that I'm 51 weeks out from the next one, I'll definitely be able to figure out some long runs. I will get many more miles in those hills, but that was it. Um, like I shared, I listen to what my coach tells me. She has never guided me wrong. She believes in me more than I believe in myself, which is a phenomenal coach because you step up your belief to match theirs, right? And I just, followed the plan. Again, didn't get out as much as I would have liked, but I hit every like long distance. I trained with all the gear. I'll show the shoes and whatnot. Um, so I alternated shoes. I the Ultra Escalante Racer. I it is I think it's like a 20, it's very flexible, and I think it's like a 22 cushion zero drop. It's a little more cushion, but I don't know, my feet felt great this whole time. It's not more cushion for like the majority, but for me, I'd been training in, I don't think I can reach them in a way that makes sense with recording these podcasts, but Ultra Vanish XC, which is 16 millimeter and which is much, thinner than the 22. However, those shoes are discontinued, and the added cushion, I do think it helped out a bit. I wouldn't go any more than that. And then for race day and for training, my Topo ST5, I don't even think they're listed as a running shoe. I know people run in them. They are, I think, 15 cushion, maybe 14, and zero drop as well. Nice big wide toe beds in all of them. Um, my strength training and mobility was not 100%. My runs, according to schedule, was 100%. I don't think my coach would say this, count some as cross training and strength because those hills worked my legs. And yes, I know strength training is a separate thing. I'm saying I lacked a bit in the strength training this time, but I do feel like a lot of my runs were much more strength required than in the past. All right, so I trained and I will come to race day. So aside from, and I did start to build confidence. I mean, all of my runs were feeling great. I did not have the normal imbalances in my body. I do think over the years, and I haven't had a lull since I started, I think I am getting stronger. Not as not not big faster, but definitely stronger. And again, more on that later. I didn't feel any imbalances. I My feet felt great. My hips felt great. Like everything just felt really good during this training. That is an excellent feeling. So, my top three fears going into race day were because I looked at the map. Oh, and I left my map in the other room. It's so good. Go to Harpeth Hills Flying Monkey Marathon's website. Just put it in Google and the website will come up. Or I will also add it in, and I will also add it into the show notes. Um, so the map, I couldn't figure out that there were very many bathroom opportunities. And I have never really done a long run without some type of like needing to go to the bathroom. I'm assuming people who are into running are listening to this, so not too much TMI, but like not peeing is what I'm saying. And it's usually like at mile 7 or mile 15. I've never made it through a marathon or ultra without some type of needing a porta potty, needing a toilet. So it didn't look like there were that many, but through my million questions that I reached out to the race director and also following the Facebook page, um, there were, in fact, enough porta potties. Like, it would take a few miles to get there, but it wasn't as bad as I thought. But still, but regardless, even if you're a couple miles out, it's not a fun feeling. And I've had it every single marathon. It's slowed me down. It's been very uncomfortable. Now I trained my nutrition differently this time. So I guess I'm still in training a little bit. I used a product called Cis Beta. I got it from The Feed. And if you're on YouTube, I'm like trying to look around to see if I have like a box. I got both let's see, Cis Beta Fuel. Yeah, that's what it's called. So it's called cis beta fuel. I got both the gel and the gummy, and I have had horrible experiences with gels or gummies or anything like that in the past. Not a fan. But this product, I did gag a few times, like the first one or two times I tried, but I did get used to it and I did figure it out and I trained with it all of my long runs. Why? Because I was used to solid foods, from bars to sandwiches. That was for my ultra, not for marathons. But I like did 3 marathons with like just Cliff bars. Maybe that's why my stomach was a wreck. But anyway, I found those the only thing that my like mouth would palate, like that I'd want to eat. I didn't like gels, so I just ate these Cliff bars and then had these stomach issues. So I was like, okay, I'm just having nothing solid. And it worked for me. It really seemed to work for me during my training. And there's a bit of a story in it. Oh, this sun. Oh well, you're getting the sun effects on YouTube. It's these sun rays coming in from the side. But so it worked well for the training. We'll see how it worked during the race. So getting there. Um, so I had to prepare not only for just this like brand new hill experience, but it was also going to be chilly. Now, again, if you come from somewhere, Vermont or Colorado, maybe this temperature isn't cold, but per me, it was 34 degrees at the start, and then like 64 at the finish. So I wore two race shirts. Mm, two race shirts, a tank top underneath, gloves, my Go One More yellow running hat, and then ear covers, like kind of like a headband that went over the running hat and covered the tops of my ears. And then I had a pack. Now, out of pure laziness, and oh, I didn't even go to my top three fears. Um, well, anyway, out of pure laziness and the fact that I saw there were so many aid stations, I chose not to use. So I have this Nathan, I still have my thing on it. This Nathan, like camelback type thing where it carries like 2 liters of water. And I actually trained with that. But then my straw got really dirty and I could not figure out the cleaning process adequately. I didn't order a new straw and I ended up running with my Nathan handheld and I used my pack just to take off the layers and put in the layers. And it works like it was beautiful. So I love my pack and then I love my handheld. Lots of pockets everywhere because I didn't have that bladder of water. But because the race was so well stocked with water stops, I think it was like every couple of miles. So my one fear was poop, and that brought me to my fueling. And that was my one fear was like I was training my fueling, I was getting a little bit better, but I don't know again still how many long runs I actually got through without needing a toilet. All right, so my second fear was getting lost. Um, and because of the incredible race director, um, there was no possibility of getting lost. And it was so like fun, funny, and uplifting because the signs like pointing which direction to go were hilarious. Like to go the way that I would go, like the wrong way, it would just say like bad monkey and a bunch of X's. And I'm like, oh, I'm not gonna go there. So that my favorite is one that says like idiot. Like, I don't know. It was really helpful and clear as day. And I have the worst sense of direction. I mean, my kids help me more times than I would like to admit. So that was my other fear. Gosh, these fears were so, all right, so the bathroom, getting lost. What was my other fear? I had another fear. Oh, and I will drop race director's name, Trent Rosenblum, best race director ever. And I'll give my top 10 things I loved about the Flying Monkey. And then I've added an 11th since. So I don't know. I was afraid of a bunch of things. So what do you do when you're afraid? You prepare. You prepare for everything you are afraid of. Maybe I was afraid of the cold. I don't know. That wouldn't be anything I can control. So maybe I'll remember at some point. So I decided to make a list and I had everything I needed. Um, So I had the Going More hat, which was really helpful and inspiring. I also wore my Alexi Pappas inspired. Um, Here, I'm gonna put some on if you're watching on YouTube. I got this at Ulta. Just some glitter here. Uh, just to remember that even though it's serious and even though it's hard, it's really not. Well, yes, it's really hard, but it's really not serious. It's really fun and it's a privilege and it's a gift to get to do such things as spend a day in the hills. So I wore my glitter to remind me to remain light and not serious. Um, and I did choose shorts. That was something that was processed with my coach. Um, Definitely need socks that are not like Publix socks, and I need gloves that are not Target $5 kids gloves. Um, but I wore gloves and I wore socks and I wore my shoes. I'm trying to think of anything other gear wise, like looking around. Um, oh, my Koros watch, which I love, and it also reaffirmed my trust in my coach because 2 days prior, so the watch is either like you're optimized, you're overreaching, like after your 20 mile or something, they're like you're overreaching. I'm like, okay. Or you're optimized or you're maintaining, which I was always like, what do you mean maintaining? I want to optimize. But anyway, by the time it was 2 days before the race, because of the taper, um, it said performance ready. You are ready for your race. So I was super excited. I was like, you did it, Athena. Like whatever was programmed had my body, according to my Koros watch, exactly ready, ready for the race. Um, yeah, I chose the 2 layers of like race shirt. I wore my Palm Beaches Marathon race shirt, tank top underneath. That one said Kaizen. Kaizen is the functional movement kettlebell gym that I worked out at when I first stepped into the world of like working out at all. And the first place I that inspired me to start running as well. And whenever I think about Kaizen, I think of the strongest I've ever been in my life. And I know I can be there again, but I'm just not. It was a time where like the girls were a certain age, I was getting a certain amount of sleep. My mother was helping a certain number of hours, and I was going to this gym with the best coaches in the world, John Brown and Ryan Usher, 3 days a week for 2 years. And so wearing Kaizen, which actually means like steady progress, just reminds me of that time where I was super strong. Now, was I a strong runner at that time? No. So I am the strongest I've ever been, just in a different way. But that was the strongest I've truly ever felt. Going from like a Bambi shaking arm, holding an 8 kg bell to like doing a Turkish getup with 20 kg. If I don't need to get into explanation, but when I wore that shirt, it connects me to my potential and my strength. So I wore that. What else with gear? The shorts were, I don't know, I think the shorts were like Marshalls. And they were perfect. So anyway, I get there, I have a headlamp, but everyone's like, you're not gonna need it. Now I'm going to pause. I'm going to pause about I'm going to do my top 10 um about because then I'm going to get to the start of the race. Um you'll see because number 11 has to do with the start of the race. So here we go. These are the top 10 things that I love about this marathon. Well, yes, I have mentioned the super fun race director answers all your questions. And that said, I don't want to send everyone to Trent with like all these questions, but I was really nervous. And like I shared, this race, this event was like a beacon of light when I was in a dark space, transitioning, experiencing homesickness. So basically, I was like maybe slightly obsessed, but it truly gave me purpose and meaning and something to connect to. So I asked like a million questions. I was very nervous about it. So that was the number one thing is, and the fun race director. Then the well-marked course. all the aid stations and the happy hype people there to cheer you on. Um, the course is stunning. So being super homesick, leaving the Florida beaches was one of the most challenging things for me. It is where at the time I felt the most spiritually connected. It's where I just felt connected to God, to spirit, and leaving that was extremely hard and sunrise runs. So Percy Warner Park um, has become that for me. I feel that same really deep connection to spirit. So the course is just stunning and just, I mean, you're in gratitude the whole time. But I'm also grateful for how challenging that course was and that it, not that I survived it, that I like conquered this for me physical feat of all that elevation and some relentless hills. Some seem to last a whole mile, and if you look at my watch, it sure looks like a hill lasts a whole mile because I got slowed down. But I'm grateful for the challenge of that. It was so incredible. Um, there was an after party, which again was part of like the happiest day I've had since we've moved here. Just people who I'll like talk about a movie that like other people might think is weird and everyone's like, "Oh, and that like they'll know exactly what I'm talking about." Running related, of course, and like beyond ultra like related movies and things like I don't know, just like we could talk about shoes for an hour. Like, I don't know, it was so cool. And more, right? And more. And I just felt at home even with these people I probably won't see till next year. It was incredible. Oh, and then the party itself, like the food trucks. Now, I'm not necessarily going, you might not get 10 because I'm combining some things here, but there were food trucks. If you like beer, there was great beer. Like just picnic tables and just the vibe was off the chain. It was amazing. Um, and oh, the race shirt and the medal and the swag. And I'll go ahead and show it. The race shirt's everything, right? Here's the back. So now you have to go to the YouTube and go to whatever minute we're on the recording. And then on the front, it has your name on it. And then on the arm, if I had run any like next year, it'll have a little like circle thing. I actually didn't look too closely, but it's super cool. Every year you run, there's like more. And I met people who had been running this event for 10 years. I think tomorrow will be the 20th year. Tomorrow. Okay. Next year will be the 20th year. Um, so that, I mean, what race shirt? Sarah, love it. And it also just marks your, I think it's monkey kills. I don't really like to say that, but I think that's what the marks are supposed to mean. And then I can't put this on because I have a little like clip in my hair, but I'll try. Oh yeah, there we go. Yeah, I just love this hat. It is the cutest hat. I'm gonna go ahead and do the rest of the episode. Oh yes. I never wore hats. I always wore sun visors until I moved to Tennessee. So this is very, very Tennessee with the monkey logo. And then I'll show you the medal as well. Even let's save it. Did I hold it up? I don't know. If you're not watching, it doesn't even matter. But I'll save the medal till the end. But that's one of the other top 10 things. The swag, the shirt, the medal, the party. But the 11th on my not counting anymore list is the 6 a.m. start time. So I am a back of the pack runner in Florida. I'm pretty sure in my age group, I was always like second to last. I'm not exaggerating. Like it's if you I'm the back of the pack, second to last or in that last like 10%. So every other event that I've run in, except for the 12-hour event, we all just like ran to the 12th hour. But the three marathons previously, the last 10 miles were so lonely. I do even want to say sad. It's just hard. It's hard to like be out there, part of something, and then you're not part of something. You're still running your race or you're running your event. You're running your race, right? And it is for me, it's all about me. I'm not competing. So, but there is just this sadness about being alone and not seeing anyone for the last 10 miles of the race. So this 6 a.m. start time and the course was open till 3 p.m. So because and there was the party, I don't even know exactly. I left at 2, but the party felt like it was still going strong. Maybe they had to close up at 3. So I'm out there at 6. I leave with like the early group. Some of the early group were actually like at a very good pace. They just probably had stuff to do during the day and, they wanted to do the early group. I truly did not know like what was going to happen. I sort of thought things might go off the wheels in a marathon, my marathons. Things usually would go off the wheels, and that meaning like just giving up mentally around 20 miles. So if that was on a flat course and then I had hills, I really didn't know what was going to happen. I couldn't imagine being out there till 3, but I wanted to give myself all the time. So 6 a.m. it was. And when I'm like those last 10 miles, when I'm usually alone, they would have been okay, honestly, because I was out in nature and it was just beautiful, but I wasn't alone. I was probably not alone for more than 3 minutes the entire like 6+ hours of my experience out there because the people who started later at the later starts were really fast and they would be like running with me towards their finish line and somebody said like someone from the later start came along. They're like, "Hey, great job." And a couple, I think someone said like, "Oh, we've been here since last night." And that's kind of what it felt like starting at 6 a.m., right? It was like black when we got there. But so what? That was light. It was funny. It was the truth. It wasn't last night, but we started like 2 hours before these people who were like gonna finish before us. But so what? There was like vibe and energy and people, and that's a big deal. So anyone who wants a race that's like high vibes the whole time and not and supportive, even by the like faster people like who started 2 hours later blowing by, like such like affirmation and support and friendliness and connection, and this just not aloneness. You're and I don't mean not alone, like there's no people like cheering for you along the course at the aid stations. Again, they were great hype people, and it was wonderful, but that's not what I mean alone. I mean the runners. You're with runners almost the entire time. That is special. That is super special. So I'm so grateful for that arrangement of an early start, a two like an option for like 2 hour early start. Um, so yeah, for me, that was the best thing because I just felt part of something for a really long time. So that was great. Now I'll go to the other part of something. I didn't ask permission, so I'm not going to use this individual's name, but I met an incredible woman and we ended up, it was so cool. I felt I have in the past made the mistake of think not of losing faith in myself and relying on whoever I've like chatted with to keep my energy going. But then I've either ended up like stopping with them and losing a lot of time and or I don't know. It's never really been, I've learned, I've heard this all the time. Like, if you're running your own race, run your own race. But then there's like support and connection. Well, this person and I had the most like beautiful, no pressure experience. We would run, jog, or walk together for periods of time, talking, getting to know each other. And then like she was just a beast downhill and I still don't quite have the mechanics yet. So she would just go past me. But then there were times uphill, I'd want to jog a little bit and then we'd meet up again. We'd talk for a few minutes and then we'd do that until, well, and then she kept saying, "See you at the finish." If I went off first and I would know, I'm like, "Nope, see you in like 5 or 10 minutes." We did this the whole time, no pressure, no like checking in even. I mean, we would talk, but no like, "Hey, how are you?" Like, no, we were running our own races, but at the similar pace and just it was amazing. I'm really not so sure at the end, like what I would have done without this individual because there were some rough moments. But this was a really like so super to connect with someone like that. So yeah, I started off, felt great. unlike the shorter course that I usually do, it started off not super hilly for a mile or two. Um, when I go out there, it's like you go uphill right away from like the part that I get into the park. So it's just uphill. And I don't like that because you don't really get to warm up. And I'm not one of those who's like jogging beforehand. No, no, no. I do warm ups, mobility and whatnot, but um, so everything felt good. And then I'm trying and then it got hard, right? The hills came and some were longer stretches than others. I still felt good. I feel like my first bit of challenge came at the half distance, which I've done, obviously I've done marathons before. I've gone 37 miles before in one day. I've did my 20-mile training run. Why at 13 miles did my mind start collapsing in on itself? I just was like, wait, 13 more? And then I was like, and I'm this way at 13 miles. How am I going to be at 20? Like, if I'm already negative and getting low energy and oh, and big green flag or green whatever, nothing hurt. Wasn't my feet, not knees, not hips, nothing physically. I was just like, like I was just not into it anymore. And I was like, and I'm sure my effort and energy was like taxed. I was definitely, and I don't look at my watch for stats during the run, but I'm sure my heart rate was high because of the hills. Maybe it was that, but I was just like over, not over it. I was just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I have this much more to go. And it wasn't even like, I was doing okay. I don't know. It just, my mind started like going in on itself all at once. So I decided to use one of my tools, and that was I pulled out my aftershocks, my little, I have the open air ones, like it doesn't go around your head. They're kind of like they hook around your ears like an ear, I don't know. Anyway, they're aftershocks or shocks now. Um, and I listened to a Marathon Training Academy episode, the most recent one, with my coach being interviewed about her rim to rim, maybe to rim experience. And it wasn't even an hour. It was like 40 something minutes long, but I got to hear my coach's voice and it just made me really happy. I'm not one to listen to much when I run. There's an occasionally I'll do podcasts. Um, but definitely like music has never been helpful. I more like get annoyed and want to change it and all this stuff. So I listened to the podcast. So it got me over my like 13-mile, what am I doing here thing. And it was good. And I felt good. And then I met up with the woman who we were like crossing paths. And I was like, I think, and now reflecting, it may have been a fuel issue if it was more energy than anything else. And just tired of, just tired, with the hills. Um, but I was with her. I was like, I think I'm feeling like lightheaded. And she's like, would you like a quarter of a peanut butter and jelly sandwich? Went into her vest and pulled it out. And I was like, oh, no, no, I don't want to take your sandwich. She's like, no, you can have it. And I was like, oh, am I going to have to go to the bathroom if I eat solid food? And then I'm like, no, I've been going like so long now. It's not going to be this like immediate thing. I had to like like give a good fact check. I ate the sandwich and I felt like the fountain of, well, I just felt like a surge of energy. I felt like a new person. So reflectively, when I started getting down on myself, maybe I just needed a different kind of sustenance and a different kind of fuel. And that is something actually that my coach and I will practice and work on for next time. I thought I did great, but if I take like an honest check, probably not. And because of the impact of that fuel, it did let me know that my fuel wasn't adequate. All right. So, and that's on me. Um, yeah, that's just on me, like spreading things out, rationing, losing track. So that's something I would like to practice even more. Even though I did great training my stomach, I need to practice the fueling during. So that was awesome. And at 15 miles, I don't know. It just kept getting hard. And it got to the point because I had also never done that many hills. The most hills I had done was a 10 miler. So that makes sense that I like these reflections. It does make sense. It started to get a bit hard. And the hills seem to get more at the end. So someone can reach out to me and tell me if I'm wrong about that, but I feel like it did. And they just kept getting longer. Like it wasn't up and down. I don't know. It was very intense. Then when I got to 18, oh, one of my best friends from home texted, like, oh, hope you're doing great. And I was like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I can do. She was like, one step in front of the other. That's what I say to everyone. So then 18 miles, I started to do the thing that you should never do, math. And I'm like 18. It's like 19, 20. So you have to do 18 and then you have to do 19 and 20, 21, 20. I was like, oh my gosh, you're not even close to done. I was like, and I think that's how it went until, I think that's how my mind went until 24. And then I was like, 2 miles left. And the other thing is, like, downhills, even though I'm not fast on the downhills, I could pick up speed somewhat. And at the end, these last like 10 miles or whatever, I couldn't. Like, I was almost like wanting a hill again so I could walk because the downhills were like, you have to run on downhills or flats because the uphills you're not going to be. So I was just like, all right. And it was warmer. I don't know if I said, but I took off my two layers, my two race shirts, and put them in my pouch at like 45 minutes in. So I was in a tank top the whole time, sometimes with gloves, sometimes without. I took off the ear covering thing. Um, Another thing that was great were so number 12, or I don't even know. So many great things about this race, but that they had professional photographer out there. And I was walking up this hill thinking there's no possible way to run. Then this photographer takes like, it felt like 2 minutes to pull out the camera, like giving me a chance to like get it together. Pulled out this camera in slow-mo, long, long, beautiful lens. And by the time like he had the camera ready to go, I was like jogging and smiling up this hill. So I like know my body was capable, but my mind was just quit in that moment. But then I could like turn it back on. I was like, if there was a photographer every 500 feet, I'd be great. Um, and yeah. Oh, and so with the late start, with a lot of people finishing from the 8 or 8:30 start, as I was finishing, I come in at, oh, I'll give my times. It's like hard to not be embarrassed, but I mean, I came from like nothing in my early 40s and I don't know. Like I'm proud, but then when I compare, I get unproud. So that's definitely like something I need to work on, clearly. But my very first marathon in Florida in 2022 was 6 hours, 36 minutes. My second marathon was 6 hours and 16 minutes, then 6 hours, 12 minutes, and I finished this event in, according to my watch time, 6 hours, 7 minutes, 39 seconds. And it like and I actually didn't even look at my watch or think that it would be a PR. I actually didn't care because there was thousands of more elevation feet. That was a PR. Even if it took 8 hours, it's a PR, it's an elevation PR. But I was like really proud that it beat my other time. But anyway, coming in at 6 hours, 7 minutes, and um 38 seconds on the clock, it actually, I think it was from the 8 o'clock start time. It was people who were coming in at like 4 hours and something. And there were a ton of people at the finish, like clapping and cheering. And I think it was just like very like I just didn't expect any people to be there. I don't know what I expected, but it was just like a really great feeling, like to come in and be like cheered on like that. It was awesome. And that's like another list on why this event is like so well run. Um, and inclusive. I love that. Like really inclusive. And so I will get to the pace, and there's nothing wrong with any pace, but I guess when I hear people say, "Oh, I'm slow and I'm 5 hours," like, dude, 5 hours to me would be like magical. I've never had speed as a goal. I've always preferred the longer races, even the idea of ultra, because I could hike or speed walk and, mix and match and not have to just like go all out at any point. Now, do people do that? Yes, right? Like, yes, there are fast ultra people. That's not what I'm talking about. I just found a sweet spot in this like 12-minute running pace, the longer the distance, probably dropping down to 14-minute pace with the walks and things like that. And it's comfortable. And my body like feels good. And me, who knows there's no rest, like I always I always almost slip and say my boss, but my coach has me not running for a full week after. Now, I have a friend who ran 100 and then a marathon 3 weeks later. My coach would not have that, but she's amazing and she like kicks butt in both. So, um, but I can rest, meaning not running, but there's no rest. Like I gotta go grocery shopping, gotta run around for the kids. So I like that easy. I guess I just have associated easy with uninjured, but that's not the case. Like you can be faster and uninjured as well. But I've been just very gentle, very protective, and in this sweet spot and in somewhat of a comfort zone. Do I think running is comfortable? No, but it, I've been getting more comfortable. What I've decided now is why I brought up like half. I'm probably not going to do the monkey half because it's too close to the actually yeah, it's too close to the full, but I'll volunteer at the half, which I did this year and it was great fun. But I'm going to, for the first time ever, so I'm going to go back. I'm going to train for a 5K. I'm going to, tr or the 5K distance, not a 5K event, because I just, that's not really too fun for me. But I'm going to train my legs to go quicker at a 5K with my coaches coaching. I'm going to train the 10K. I'm going to train the half. That all sounds super miserable. It sounds like I'm going to be like putting more effort, feeling more discomfort. And I think it's exactly where I need to be in life. I am someone, and I think that's why I just was slowing down or walking it in, or why I choose to do that, is part of me wants to like be fine the next day, but part of me a big part of me doesn't like being uncomfortable. I think it's like the majority, but if you know like any of my story previously, I struggled with bulimia and like the main thing with that particular, oh, so I'll trigger warning here. So if hearing, I'm going to talk about it for probably 20 seconds. If any of that bothers you, you can actually just like fast forward that 15 and you'll get past it. But I wanted immediate relief after the feeling of discomfort. And that was the thing that kept my addiction for so long was my inability to like sit with food inside me. And so that was that. All right, it's over. Um, Maybe another trigger warning about substances, but I'm not going to go into much detail. But if I'm feeling something I don't want to feel, discomfort, the first thing, and this was during a period of my life, it is not presently, is reaching for a drink so I could feel anything but what I'm feeling in that moment. Not many drinks, but still that like, I can't feel this. It's uncomfortable. Let me have something that'll just soften the edge, dull it out. Okay. So me, I guess, like a majority does not, I don't like to feel uncomfortable. And I think that's why I've let myself kind of stay and also running is for my mental health, so I do want some enjoyability, but I'd like to train that discomfort. There's actually for mental health, widening your window of tolerance is extremely important. Being in what people refer to as that pain cave or being uncomfortable and doing things that you're not escaping widens your window of tolerance so you can be now I've like glitter all over my face, this is funny. So, so you can so you can not be so reactive, so you can not reach for numbing things, so you can be patient with your family and your children, so you can like be in an uncomfortable situation and survive it and stay in it for longer. It's a resiliency and it's a strength with mental health as well. So that's what training the 5K is going to be. It's going to be getting more uncomfortable than I wish. I can't even imagine like trying I've tried for 3 miles before, but I haven't necessarily like trained with it as a focus, but like when I get to the point where I'm training a half, that sounds like harder. Training for a half to like train a pace seems even more challenging than just like my completion of a marathon, kind of like going at the pace where I feel okay. So widening my window of tolerance is my next running goal, starting with 5K training after my little like rest and rebuilding that my coach sets up for me. The last thing I wanted to show was this medal, the Harpeth Hills Flying Monkey Marathon. Uh, I am so grateful for this experience. Thank you for listening. If you've made it this far, that's amazing. If you got any benefit from this recap of my story, if you have any questions, anything I may have left out, don't hesitate to reach out. I'm on all the things. I'm just on Facebook and Instagram, but Facebook, it's my name, SarahGranato. And then I am Sarah Granado is my Instagram, and that will all be in the show notes. Feeling super grateful to have just started this like recording again. And I'm just, yeah, grateful for the Harpeth Hills Flying Monkey Marathon. I'm grateful for running. I'm grateful for my mind, my body, my energy, my spirit, and higher spirit for carrying me through that event. I am so grateful, and I'm wishing you peace, power, and presence.